Melissa Manriquez. I'm the coordinator of the Graduate Student Center. And today we are presenting GradSlam 301, Public Speaking and Delivery. This is in preparation for our upcoming GradSlam competition. Professor Kelly O'Bannon will be presenting, and she's a professor in the communications department.
I just wanted to say, thank you for having me. Public speaking is my passion. I love everything about it. And I know that not everyone loves everything about public speaking, but hopefully after today, you're going to hear some wonderful ideas. It's going to inspire you to be an even stronger presenter than you already are. The idea is to not be like me or be like Martin Luther King Jr. I mean, if you are like him, that's super great. But the idea is to be you and the best version of yourself. And so that's really what we're kind of looking for out of presentations. That kind of authenticity just can't be replaced. So when I think about what is a great public speaker, someone where you just go, oh man, I felt that. That was good. They were confident. They were interested. They cared about their topic. They connected to you as an audience member. Even if it's through a screen, you felt like they were talking to just you. And they had good voice inflections and they had great energy. And there's so many elements that make up a great speaker, but so much of what people experience in speaking is the delivery part. Content's very important. I know Dr. Luis Vega was dealing with that content, so I'm here about the delivery. And the delivery really can kind of almost make or break a presentation. And that can be a lot of pressure. So I kind of want to split this up into two different sections so you cannot feel overwhelmed by the task of trying to figure out how to deliver a presentation on a screen and not feel like a complete idiot. The first piece I want to talk about is Zoom. And that seems kind of silly. I know we've been on Zoom for a couple of years now. Definitely COVID all pushed us onto Zoom. But Zoom really changes everything about your delivery. So much more than if you were live in person. You get to be in your pajama pants and sit behind your screen. And you can have your dog or your cat running around below you and no one would know that. There's a lot of luxuries. But there's a lot of extra things to consider that you may never, ever consider in a normal in-person presentation. And one of them is your background. It sounds silly, but it's very, very impactful. And I'm going to tell you a story. I do a lot of work with lots of different groups across the campus of CSUB. And I was doing some assessment work looking at senior seminar presentations among students. They all happened during COVID. They were all on Zoom. And so I was watching the business school give a presentation. And the assignment was to give an elevator pitch. They had to pitch why you should hire them for their dream job in 2 minutes or less, the elevator ride. I watched a student. He was giving a very, very great speech. And he was talking about why you should hire him for a banking job. He said the name of the bank, I don't remember. But his background were shelves and shelves and shelves and shelves of liquor bottles. I have never in my life seen that much liquor, except for in a bar. Like it was honestly truly beautiful. Like I actually was distracted by a little bit. I thought to myself, wait a minute, you're not applying for a job at a bar, which actually would be super great to have that background. You're applying for a job at a bank. And if I'm at the bank and I see 200 bottles of liquor behind you, I'm probably not hiring you. I might say other reasons. Oh, we went a different direction. Oh, sorry, we found, someone who had higher qualifications. But in my head, I'm thinking, you had 200 bottles of liquor. I don't know why you drink that much. And so whether or not you actually even drink, there was a judgment that's passed. And so it's so important to be thoughtful about your background. Your background can be very, very distracting. So you might want to consider blurring your background. My background's blurred right now. I will unblur it for you so you can see it if you would like. My background's not awful, but it's slightly distracting. You might look at the artwork is up here or the baskets or the window, and I have a fan on today because it's a little warm. So that fan ticking around, those are all little things to take away the attention from you and put it around your background. And so while you may secretly want them not to be paying attention to you, in this situation for your GradSlam, they need to be listening to you. You need to kind of command the screen. And so it's a lot easier to command the room when you're present, much harder on a screen. So I highly encourage you to blur your background. Be careful. You want to make sure that the colors you're wearing don't match your background, because if they do, then you blend in and then you lose a shoulder. and then you lose part of your face. And then you actually, you look like Phantom of the Opera, where there's one side of you covered and the other side's not. So consider your background. You may even want to try on what you're going to wear, hop on Zoom, be in the background you're going to be in, make sure that you look good. I don't know if I can flip and you'll see it. I mean, I have a lamp right there. I added in my room today because it's 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock and it's a little bit dark outside. And so when it gets dark outside, my light gets real dim. So I just put in a random lamp. No one can see it. But again, I won't blur in the background that way if I do that. So just something to think about your background, make a conscious decision. So that way, again, you're putting your best foot forward. I am actually going to show you a video in a little bit. You'll see he was actually a winner, I think, in 2022 for a grad slam. He was presenting on a medical topic and he was in a hospital. You could see the number of a room behind him and it looked like a hospital. And he actually chose not to blur his background. And I bet that was a conscious decision. He thought, hey, I'm giving you a medical topic. I look like a genius. I'm here in a hospital. You cannot get more legit than me right now. Let me show you my background. So if there is an exception to that, where you have some great background or you're in the scene that you're in, I'm all for it. But if you're not, blur your background to put your best foot forward and look the most confident. My second thing I want to warn you about for Zoom is camera angles. You have to make sure that you're looking at the screen in front of you. If for some reason you have an external camera and your external camera's off to the side of your screen, if I'm sitting here and talking like this the whole time looking into the camera, you can only see the side of my face and it doesn't look good. And so you want to be thoughtful. You also don't want to be looking up at the camera or looking down on the camera. I'm not supposed to dominate you. And I'm not supposed to be where, you can see at my nose. So you have to be thoughtful about your camera angle. You want it to be professional. You want to look professional. It might mean rigging some things to where your camera and your screen match. It might be awkwardly put together, held by boxes, held up by maybe possibly even some books. All of those things are great. No one can see that. So don't be afraid to put yourself in a position to where you are in the center of the camera. That way you can command our attention. And then when you talk and you're looking at us, do not stare at your PowerPoint. You are a tiny little box in the corner while your PowerPoint's up on the screen. You need to look into the camera. You're talking to us. And that's a really important connection in being very thoughtful. If you ever watch people who present a lot, maybe on TV, especially like the Cooking Network, the Food Network, those people are looking right in the camera and having a conversation. There are other people in the room, but they're looking at the camera because they're talking to you at home. Consider this, you're on the Food Network, you're talking to us sitting at home. So you want us to feel that connection. And if you aren't looking at us, it will be very, very obvious. And if your camera's in an awkward situation, it will also be incredibly awkward. I had a lovely student. I teach a lot of public speaking courses, and he was an international exchange student, super, super nice guy. That poor kid could not figure out how to put his camera at an angle that would show anything except for his nose. It was literally his nostril the entire time. I didn't see eyes. I didn't see lips, just a nostril. And I told him, I said, hey, we can only see your nose. And he'd be like, really? So I encourage you again to hop on Zoom, be in the room or the space you're going to be in, turn it on, look, make sure you look kind of like where I am right now. I'm not super forward in your face. I'm not super far back where you can't tell where I am. I'm a decent distance. I fill up, about a third of the screen. That's kind of what you're looking for in this sort of presentation. And again, it goes a long, long way. And when I say to look at the camera, that means that you're not reading your notes. I'm going to show you a presentation in a little bit where you can see people and their eyes physically moving across the screen and reading. You think, oh, they'll never know. I'm on Zoom. They can't see my eyes. Yes, they can. It is very easy to see who's reading and who's not, because there are tell signs. There are signs where your eyes are constantly moving or reading. That's one tell sign. Two is the pace of your information changes and becomes very consistent, almost exact, because you're reading. And when you read off of a piece of paper, you read in a much more consistent fashion than you do when you're naturally talking. It changes your voice inflections. It changes your voice projection. It changes your connection with the audience. It's shocking to think that doing something as simple as reading would actually do that, especially on Zoom, where no one can catch you. But the fact of the matter is, it 100% changes the experience. And you've come all this way. You've done all this work to have this great experience, to try and compete in Grad Slam. And then you just lose it all by reading. So you're not going to read, you're going to look at the camera. I'll tell you how to do that in just a little bit. I want to make sure too that you check lighting and mics. I mentioned lighting before. I want to mention mics. Make sure you've got that figured out, whether you're going to have AirPods in or some connection in. My computer has a pretty strong mic, so I'm good. I also have another mic I can plug in if I need to, but I've tested that. And what I did was I logged in as me, and I was logged in twice. I logged in on my cell phone. I pressed record. I put it in the other room, and I talked. Was like, blah 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 blah, and I, gave up my presentation. And then I went back and I looked at my recording on my phone to hear what I sound like. It's wildly scary, very disturbing. Just prepare yourself for that. But I did that because I wanted to make sure that I sounded clear, that it was easy to hear me. Because if you're going to give this great presentation, and we're talking like this and no one can hear you, and we're in a McDonald's drive-through, you're not winning the presentation because no one can hear you. Your information is the access and the gateway to your success. So you want us to be able to hear you. Again, it's simple things. You want to be seen and heard, but it really does go a long way in having the appearance of confidence, having the appearance of, hey, I'm prepared. I've got this. Let me share with you all of my brilliant ideas. My last piece on delivery is to be thoughtful about your appearance. Again, I mentioned before, making sure you don't match your background so you don't blend in, but you also make sure that you look professional. If you're gonna talk the talk, you've got to walk the walk. And the walking the walk is having professional. I don't care if you're in pajama pants on the bottom, but above, you need to look professional. So be thoughtful about what you're wearing. Be thoughtful about making sure that you're putting forward a good presentation. People looking in your tiny little square make a lot of judgments about you. And you want all those judgments to go in your favor. So when they watch you, they go, oh, look at them. They look so professional. Their background looks great. I can see them. I've seen the camera. They're talking to me. All of those things are things that are just putting you a little bit above the mark. Does it mean you're going to win? I can't promise that. But it's just increasing your chances for success. And really, that's what we're looking for in here, increasing our chances of success. I'm going to show you a video. And I want you to pay attention to their body language, their screen, the lighting, and we'll talk about what you see here in just a minute. Okay, so this is a Grad Slam conference, and I want to hear what you think about her.
Today, I'm going to tell you about a pathogen with an interesting mutation, but I first need to talk about cystic fibrosis, more commonly called CF. CF is a genetic disease that causes a buildup of mucus in the lungs and other organs. And as shown at number 1, CF patients experience repeated lung infections from a variety of different bacteria. Now, one such bacteria is of great interest in our lab called Pseudomonas aeruginosa. This bacteria forms chronic infections in the lungs of cystic fibrosis patients. And in that CF lung environment, these bacteria acquire a mutation that causes them to become thick and slimy, as shown in the photo at number 2. We call these slimy bacteria mucoid. Now imagine trying to breathe with mucoid, slimy bacteria inside your lungs. It's not hard to imagine how this conversion from normal to slimy or non-mucoid to mucoid results in increased mortality, and this is exemplified by the graph at number 3. This graph shows lung function decline in CF patients, where the y-axis is lung function and the x-axis is patient age. The dashed line through the center of the graph shows the point at which these patients will need a lung transplant to survive. You can see patients with non-mucoid infections stay well above that line, but patients with mucoid infections will drop below that line as they age, demonstrating how deadly this conversion can be. Now, to make things even more interesting, in that CF lung environment, those mucoid bacteria sometimes acquire a second mutation, thus reverting back to a non-mucoid type. And this is shown in the picture at number 4. Now, this is thought to occur because that mixed bacterial population may be stronger than either type on its own. However, these non-mucoid bacteria are more susceptible to antibiotics because they've lost the ability to produce that slime to protect themselves. So, if we can influence this conversion, we can make a more susceptible population and better treat these infections. The problem is we don't know what factors are involved in that reversion, which brings me to my current project at number 5, where I'll be investigating.
Okay, I didn't show the whole thing, but when you looked at that, what did you see? Did you see her eyes reading? Did you see her looking down? So she had her notes below her. I could tell you exactly where her notes were. Her notes were below her. So she was like, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. My 5th idea is, and then she looked back up again. It was so obvious. That's because she didn't know her content. She thought, oh, I'll put notes, they'll never know. Promise me. I'm telling you, I know. It is easy to see. I'm going to show you one more that has to do with eye contact, just so you can kind of, again, get a feel for what I'm talking about.
These are the moments that made me into the resilient adult that I am today. And I think this idea that hardships make us stronger is a really common narrative. But interestingly, it's not the logic we use when we are tasked with taking care of some of nature's most valuable babies, endangered wild animals. Take salmon, for instance. When we raise this culturally and economically important fish species in captivity, we bring them into hatcheries that are really sheltered, and then we release them into the wild where they have to deal with real predators that really want to kill them. And importantly, survival is lower for captive-born individuals compared to wild fish. So the question that really motivated my dissertation was whether there were experiences that we could give fish during development that would make them more resilient as adults. So to study this, I brought Western mosquito fish into the lab, bred them, and then exposed their offspring to different challenges. So you can see here that I have this red group that was exposed to changing temperatures, this blue group that was exposed to the very scary.
So for this young woman, she was not reading. It was completely from her. You could feel it in her voice inflections. You could see it in her body language. She had hand gestures. You felt how much she kind of enjoyed what she was talking about. Her fatal flaw, her eyes didn't match her camera. Her camera was off to the side. And so she was looking kind of like this, but you could tell that it wasn't reading, but it wasn't that connection. So that's why these little setup things matter. You know, if you take that and you put that camera in the right spot, you make sure your eyes are looking forward, and then you do what that last gal did, you're going to find that kind of perfect recipe for, let me suck you into my world and make you love it as much as I do. And that's that kind of wonderful relationship you want to have with the lens sitting in front of you. So the second thing that I want to talk about to you is about the actual delivery piece, more than just the Zoom setup. How do you handle yourself? What do you do to handle maybe all the nerves, all this hot mess all happening at once? Because it's about 1,000 things going at once, and it can be a lot to manage. The first thing I want to talk about is pace. Pace is so important to giving an effective presentation. When you think about pace, pace is how you reveal your information to us. And I want you to consider it like a reveal. You are the gatekeeper of information. And when you unveil it to us in your pace, you're telling us how we can receive that information. If you're kind of going a little quicker, maybe you're a little more excited. If you're going a little more slower, maybe you're trying to draw us in. But the idea is that having control of how fast you say things is a really, really important part of the game. And it's important because we need to be able to understand you. At the end of the day, presentation is important, but so is your content. And if you have brilliant content and you say it so quickly that we can't process it, you're not going to win because they couldn't understand you. So you have to be able to find that natural pace and flow to make this be a seamless presentation. Like you had everything under control. It was exactly how you wanted it to be. So you want to be calm. You want to not be so slow that you're dragging things on, but also fast that you're talking so quickly that you're almost messing up and mumbling over your words. You talk so fast because you're so excited. Here's my great idea, and this is so wonderful. Don't you love it too? When it gets too quick, especially on Zoom, it's harder to process the information. So what you need to do is you need to know your information. You're going to memorize the structure of your presentation. You're going to know the first piece of my presentation is this. The second piece is this. The third piece is this. But the exact words you're going to use to describe it might change a little every time. That's okay. As long as you have your structure solid, the rest of it really is going to make sense and fall into place. And because it's not memorized, you won't be a robot just spitting it out, throwing it out at the audience. You'll be saying, here's my passion. I love this. Let me tell you about how great this is. This is what I do and what I want to do. And I want you to feel how excited I am. So it allows the audience to experience. So we're going to memorize the structure. We're going to know what's going to happen in first, second, third, and fourth. But we're not going to memorize every single word. Because you memorize every single word, it's not going to work. And you're going to practice. There is no way you should give this presentation without a pretty good amount of practice. If you think about it, it's a 3-minute presentation, right? If you practiced 10 times, that's not that long of your life actually given up to practice it. That's 30 minutes. You need way more than 30 minutes to be confident and to have it flow. And so what you do is you take it a little piece at a time. Don't try to memorize the entire thing all at once. You're going to be a disaster. So here's my first section. My first section is introducing blank. You practice just that first session. You go, okay, here's my notes. All right, I'm going to have to do this, this, and this. And then you look at the camera on Zoom by yourself and you go for it. You say it. It's going to probably take you maybe 10 or 12 times to get it out in some sort of coherent fashion where you don't sound like a complete idiot. But that 10 times maybe took you 5 minutes of your life. And then you do the first section and the second section. And then you do those two things over and over again until it feels good. You're like, okay, second section, I've got to hit this. I've got to hit my research. I've got to hit the blank, my idea. All right. You're doing the first session. It's already feeling pretty good. That second section is going to get smoother and smoother. And you slowly add a section a little at a time. When you do that, because you didn't memorize the whole entire thing from start to finish, you're not married to the words. It allows you to be free. It allows you to be yourself. It allows you to express your own ideas. Today, I have a structure. I know what I need to hit. I know when I need to hit it. But the words I'm choosing to describe it are changing a little every time. I'm a professional public speaker, and I still practice for this presentation because your time is important to me. And if I'm presenting to you, I want to respect you and value you as an audience member. And I'm not going to waste your time with me fumbling around with words. That means I have to practice. That's part of being an effective presenter. And so a practice can go a long way to making you feel better. The third thing that you want to do is you want to emphasize certain words over others. If everything sounds the same, then what happens is people tend to lose the purpose and the meaning behind it. When everything is so consistent, you cause problems. And this is the second piece of this, and that's the voice inflections. The voice inflections are very much influenced by pace, but you have to care. And if you don't care, your audience isn't going to care. I sit in front of students all day who could care less about public speaking. Not their favorite topic. They prefer not to do it. They'd much rather have their phones in front of them. But you know what? I'm going to come in and I'm going to love it so much. I'm going to make you love it because my love for public speaking is contagious. So I'm going to come in. I'm going to be in it to win it. I'm going to be excited. I'm going to have voice inflections. And I'm going to emphasize certain words over others. And when I play with that pace, you hear, oh, certain words. Okay, over others. But you begin to change the way you receive the message. You're in charge. You're the editor of the information. You are in complete control of how we experience this presentation. So play with the words. Play with being a little more dramatic in some parts and a little less dramatic than others. You're not going to sound exactly like me because you're not me. Your energy will be you, maybe in a different package. But having those voice inflections and picking certain words over others just enhances your material. It makes it stronger and it makes it more interesting. Keep in mind that everyone listening to this Grad Slam, they're listening to multiple presentations over and over and over again. And if you sound like everybody else, you're not going to stand out. And you're better than that. You've worked so hard to get here. Make it worth their while. And if you do that, people will fall into it. They'll enjoy it like you enjoy it. And you'll find that you'll have a better experience and you will probably have more success in the presentations. So voice inflections, very important. Attitude drastically impacts what's happening. So come in pumped, come excited, come in ready to go, and you will find that the world will open up for you, which is, again, a really important part of this. The next piece of delivery is to pay attention to your body language. This is very, very important. You should not be sitting back in your chair. This is not a casual lay around on the couch. You can sit forward in your seat. So that allows you to have hand gestures, to move your upper body a little bit, because that animates what you have to say. And here's the thing. There are all different kinds of learners. People who are audio listeners where they need to be able to hear it. People who are visual learners to be able to see it. Tactile, maybe able to touch it. Unfortunately, you can't prevent the touching part. We can't touch you through a screen. But you have our ears and our sight. And when they're looking at you on a camera, they're going to be listening to you, but they're going to be seeing you. And so when you have voice inflections and you have great body language, hand gestures, then people go, oh, that was interesting. I didn't know that. Oh, so you see my eyes and my ears. Huh. And they begin to visually experience your speech. For people who are non-visual learners, hand gestures don't matter to them. They don't care about that. But if you get a judge who's a visual learner, you have all of a sudden heightened their senses. And when you heighten their senses, they're a little more aware of what you did, and you are a little more special than the person who was to it before you. And so when you look to kind of differentiate yourself, this is a way to do that. We're not flagging in, being wildly dramatic. I'm not, all over the place. I'm not doing jazz hands. It's not being thoughtful and strategic. I had this wonderful experience. I'm like, oh, it was wonderful. I felt that in your heart, you warmed up my soul. And so those kinds of things can go a long way. The answer to all of this and how to incorporate it into your speech, again, to practice. This is super disturbing. I'm just warning you now, but you should get on Zoom and you should press record and record yourself. It is the scariest thing you'll ever do. I've been doing this for 20 years and I hate myself on tape. I hate the way I sound. I hate the way my hands move. I hate all about it. But what it does teach me is, oh, I wasn't feeling it that day. I didn't have a lot of hand gestures. My body language really wasn't selling it. Or, whoo, that was good. I meant it that time. I was in it to win it. I was loving you on the camera and you were loving me and we were having a moment. Even though you can't see me, you can see me, So it's about practicing, recording yourself, having that moment so you can kind of check and make sure that you didn't miss anything so you can give a good quality presentation. We should be able to see at least the upper part of your torso. I don't need to see your entire body, but at least the upper part to make sure that you have hand gestures. So for me, my hand gestures in person are usually much bigger, much wider, much more extreme if you get the live version of me. I'm giving you the Zoom version. I can see where my camera is. I can tell where I'm supposed to be. So I try to hit my window so you can see it. So practicing that helps you out. It makes you a little more conscious and it's a little more natural when it happens on your actual presentation day, which of course we are always hoping to do. Again, you'll be shocked and scared to see yourself, but man, it is such a good lesson and really, really important to being successful in what you do. Another piece to delivery is being confident. And confidence is something I can just kind of, wiggle my hand and all of a sudden you're confident. I recognize and realize that public speaking, speech anxiety is a real thing for people. Whether it's slight, moderate or severe, it is an experience. And it's not necessarily a pleasant experience for everyone. So you should be proud of yourself for signing up for this, proud of yourself for being a part of this and trying to do it. And now you want to give yourself the best chance of success. So what I will tell you is this. If you walk in dreading it, if you walk in not excited, not in the mood, nervous, I don't want to do this, that impacts your confidence. You have to walk in it to win it. And if you aren't in it to win it, it's already over before you started. And it's kind of silly, but I always kind of compare this to presenting or playing a game. If you've ever played a sport before or been in a competition before, you go on the basketball court and you don't go up there and go, okay, like I'm ready to play. Let's go. Who does that? You see the professionals, they're up there like sticking out their chest. Look how great I am. Do you see me? You see me because I'm good. Let me just show you how good I really am. That is a certain kind of confidence and swagger that is a wonderful thing. They don't need to be that extreme. They're a little much, but having that kind of confidence when you step onto the stage, when you step onto the screen to give your presentation, makes a huge difference in your ability to be successful. If you believe in yourself, so will everyone else. I always tell my students, know your worth and add tax. You are worth a lot. You are worth listening to, you are worth being heard, and you are worth being valued. Believe that. And when you believe that, people will want to listen to you because you're commanding the room. So know that first and foremost. 2, I wanted to talk to you about how to maybe tackle the strategies of if you might be feeling nervous or a little anxious on your presentation. I will promise you now, your heart will be beating quickly. You're going to have kind of a rush of emotions. So how do you handle that? There's 2 different ways you can do this. There was a study done by Harvard Business School, took about 140 students, and they did 3 different groups. They had a group where they said, I want you to practice yoga strategies. I am calm, I am centered, here's some breathing, nice and calm and relaxed. They took a second group of students, they said, you are excited. I want you to repeat these mantras. I'm excited. I can't wait. Let's do this. And you had to say them with passion. They made them do it over and over and over again before they spoke. The last group, they were the control group. They left them alone and said, hey, you do your presentation, we'll see what happens. And what they found was people who self-reported, along with the people who judged them in their 3-minute presentations, the group that said, I'm excited, I can't wait, this is going to be great, reported a better experience, greater confidence, greater interaction with the group, and the judges who scored them had the exact same reports of them. It's interesting. And what I think is really interesting is that we've been taught for so long, calm your breathing, calm your breathing. Well, if you think about nervousness and excitement, they're very similar emotions. Your heart's racing, might be sweating a little bit, might be a little flush, possibly red, depending on kind of how your body reacts to nerves. You are probably shaking a little bit, a little more nervous. When you're excited, those are the exact same emotions as well. The difference in your body is the mentality. When I'm nervous, it means it's bad. I don't like that. When I'm excited, it's good and I can't wait. No one goes to Disneyland or a party they've been waiting for all year and goes, this is so great. I'm so excited to be here. I just love Disneyland. No one does that. You walk in pumped and ready to experience it. So maybe instead of trying to fight what your body is naturally doing, maybe you lean into it. Enjoy the ride. See what happens. I always tell whoever I present, you need to do what's best for you. Some of you may want to calm down, perfectly fine. Others of you may want to get excited, perfectly fine. Do what's best for you, but know that you have more than one option. And they're both really good options. So pick what's best for you. In terms of breathing, I want you to think about how breathing is the gateway to your voice. It's the gateway to your voice inflections. It's the gateway to your body language. It's the gateway to your audience receiving your knowledge. So you're going to do something weird with me. And even if you're watching later, you're watching this video, still do this. I want you to put one hand on your chest up high. I want you to put one hand on your stomach, like where your waistline is. And I want you to take 3 short, quick breaths. Right? Ready? Go. Now, if you felt that, that's called hyperventilation. That's your heart racing quickly. Your breath shortens. It constricts your airways. It makes your brain hard to think. It makes your body turn funky, and lots of bad things happen. Now I want you to yawn. I know it's hard to yawn on command. So here we go. All right. If you yawned, your stomach expanded. That's diaphragm breathing. That's the kind of breathing that calms your pace. That shows confidence, that makes you feel more relaxed. Lots of people who present give quick breaths, fast, rapid breathing, and then they shake, their heart races, they turn red, they panic, they have all these bad things that happen to them. If you can get diaphragm breathing, breathing in your waistline, in your belly, then what's going to happen is you're going to naturally calm down. I'm still energetic. I'm still good, but my heart isn't being out of control and I can control my emotions and I'm good to go. So think about where you're breathing from. Try and see if you can control that breathing. In your practice sessions, try that. And if you get a chance, I highly recommend that you invite someone into a Zoom room with you, a roommate, a friend, a family member, and say, hey, I want you to listen to my speech. I want you to stare at me and judge me with the most extreme eyes. That will actually simulate some of the nerves for you, and it'll help you kind of teach you how to breathe from your stomach, from your diaphragm, rather than from your upper chest, causing that kind of panic. So those are some things that you can do to sort of increase your confidence. Now, I want to show you another presentation because I want you to see how he pulled this off.
Chronic wounds, seen here on your left, are wounds that fail to heal for months to years from their initial onset. They affect more than 6.5 million Americans every single year, and their treatment costs northwards of $50 billion annually. Now, obviously, that's very expensive, right? That's a lot of money. But what's significantly more costly than that is the amount of pain and suffering that people with these wounds have to go through. You see, once a week, these patients go into a wound care facility where a doctor will unwrap their wound, snag a bottle of antiseptic, and vigorously scrub out the wound site. And this is necessary to kill any bacteria or fungi present that could cause an infection. But, well, as you might imagine, vigorously scrubbing an open wound is an excruciating procedure, to say the least. Now, after this, the doctor will trim any dead tissue from the wound site, rinse the wound out, wrap it back up, give the patient a pat on the back and say, well, we'll see you in a week. Hopefully that will heal. Of course, the doctor can't actually say when or even if the wound will heal. I don't think that any of you here today would describe that procedure as ideal, effective, or even particularly good. And it's to that end that we're working on a new method for treating chronic wounds. It uses an ionized gas, also called a plasma, which you can see there on your right, and it works by generating a wide variety of highly reactive molecules that serve two basic functions in the wound site. The first of those functions is in sterilization. These molecules have the capacity to kill bacteria and fungi present in the wound site, but because we are using a gas rather than the more traditional liquid antiseptic, no vigorous, painful scrubbing is necessary. The second of those two functions is in wound healing signaling. As an example here, if you get a cut on the back of your hand, your body will begin producing these exact same molecules to tell the cells around the cut to begin dividing and thus healing the cut. By directly introducing these molecules to the wound site, we can speed up the rate of wound healing simply by telling the patient's own body to heal the wound faster. Now, right now, we're working in pig wounds.
This was a first place winner. And what made him exceptional, minus his camera angle, I wasn't a fan of that, was everything else that he did. He did all the things that I talked about. He was talking to the screen. He wasn't wringing his nose looking for the next idea. He understood. He had hand gestures. He said, if you see here on the right, my eyes looked to see what he was talking about. And he engaged with the audience. So it's about being thoughtful about what you give. It's about caring, but it's also about being confident. And that confidence is going to come through practice. It's not going to naturally happen for most people. And that's okay. Putting a little bit of time and effort in is going to give you a very good reward and give you a great experience. And really, when you find that the more you do it, the easier it gets, it makes you expand and grow as a speaker, which is really important. Yes, I hope that you win the Grad Slam, but I also hope that you become more confident as a speaker when you move forward. And every time you have an experience, you're building a base for the next one. And so as you continue to move forward, be thoughtful about what you do and recognize that being on camera is a little more difficult, slightly restricting than being in person, but also better in other ways, less to manage and a little less to do. Does anyone have any questions?
So my question is, what I noticed with these recordings here that you have is that they had the person on the spotlight, they had the presentation. So technically, I think when you put someone on the spotlight, they can't actually see anybody else. Could that impact the presentation, or it just don't even worry about being able to see other people? Don't worry about if you don't see people. Like, what's your advice on that? Because
so what you do is you look right into the camera and you go for it. that's what you do. Everyone else really shouldn't matter. I mean, I'm answering a question right now, so I am looking at you to see what you're saying. But for the most part, I kept my camera is right in front of me, the top of my laptop, and my view is right here, and that's all I'm looking at. I'm not paying attention to the people at the bottom. I'm not paying attention to what's happening behind because I can't see them. And so I'm focusing just on talking to you as if you and I were having a conversation right now. So actually, it's kind of a benefit. It's scary if you're not used to seeing yourself, but if you practice it, you won't be surprised and you'll be able to look right at that screen and kind of make that presentation the way it's supposed to be. So I think it's actually a benefit, especially if someone's going like this while you're talking. That's not the best experience.
I appreciated how you told us to breathe and kind of get the nerves out, or kind of talk ourselves up to getting into our delivery. But how would you approach your delivery if you had a topic that was either maybe kind of sad or a little more detailed, or something that would that's going to invoke some sort of emotion that you don't want to exactly be so pumped to get into. You want to be able to kind of set the stage for it.
Being pumped doesn't mean being cheerleader, rah-rah excited. If you have a serious topic, you can lean into that passion. So it doesn't have to be like everything is all good, fine, and dandy. You can, if you have a more serious topic, you can play into it. If you're talking about something that happened in elementary school and what you're doing for graduate work, being an elementary school teacher, then maybe you can be a little more playful because it's elementary school teachers are. That doctor, the last one who presented, who's in the hospital talking about, the care wounds, he was a little more serious, but he had passion. So I say you lean into whatever emotion you want to create. You want to create a little more drama because it's more serious, lean into it. If you're something that it's a little more, this is such a great idea, we found this new wonderful thing, then you can lean into that. So whatever emotion you're looking for, lean into it.
I'm in the Masters of Spanish and I have a couple of presentations. They're not 3-minute presentations, but it's hard to memorize if it's going to be like a 15-minute presentation. What do you have any tips maybe to memorize bullet points, or can we have a little cheat sheet on like somewhere in the screen? I don't know. I haven't been doing this very long and I've been out of school for a long time.
Yeah. So if it's a longer presentation, if it's, 10 to 15-minute mark, typically most people will allow you to have some sort of notes. And so I would recommend note cards, not pieces of paper. Because when you have to go, you look dramatic and it's not the best look. So note cards are nice and controlled. It's about writing bullet points though on that paper because you need to know what's being said. If you have to look down to read the next idea, you're going to be less convincing, and it reduces your credibility in people's experience. So as long as it's allowed by whoever's asking you to present, having notes is perfectly fine. I'm not opposed to notes. But for a 3-minute speech, we got to be on point and know it. But for longer presentations, notes are absolutely acceptable. I have, I can unblur myself. I have a small amount. I have one note card. That's what I have for today. And it's a list. And it's the things that I needed to hit. But all the rest of it comes from me because I know when I've practiced it. So it's okay to have some things and some reminders. And as you get into more complicated topics, when you're maybe doing outside research and you have sources you need to cite and you have more data you need to hit, those kinds of things are typically acceptable to be able to look at your notes and read that, as long as they say it's okay. So don't expect to have to learn every single word all the time. Sometimes they make you, sometimes they don't. But in shorter presentations, that is definitely much more important than in a longer presentation. So thank you all for coming today. I hope that you believe in yourself, that you have confidence, practice so you feel confident what you have to say, know that you are worthy of being heard. Don't worry about the person before you, don't worry about the 5 people before you, you just focus on you. And when you focus on you and you believe in yourself and you invest in yourself, good things will happen and you'll be amazed at how great this experience can be. So thank you all very much for listening.